Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of By the Numbers for Counterstrike Global Offensive. I am your host, Richard Lewis, and joining me as he does every week is a wandering Duncan Shields, the world's leading CSGO analyst, just back from Croatia, back in one piece. We're going to talk about the event in great detail soon, but I suppose I'll start by just asking, how was the wonderful country of Croatia? Because normally when you go to Eastern European countries, anything can happen.
As a country, it seems all right. Like, obviously, I was only there 2 days anyway, and the event, because it ran so over time, there wasn't much time to go around. But as an overall country, it seemed all right. Like, it was certainly better than some of the other ones I've been to. Ukraine, Poland, Belarus. It's obviously like there's like a tier. There's certainly a hierarchy to these countries. Okay, like I have no idea what the GDP of this country is, but it looked pretty nice. Like the place we were at was like some sort of beach resort type place. Like we were like right onto a sea. Like right at our hotel backed onto a sea, and the room was fantastic. Like that's one of the few metrics I have to see how good these countries are. Is that nowadays, because the amount of budget for the events has gone up, they do tend to try and get you 5-star hotels. So you can quickly tell by how good a 5-star hotel is in a country how well off the country usually is. Like I'll be honest, some countries even a 5-star hotel is like a normal hotel, like a 3-star in other countries. So this was a very nice hotel room, I have to say. This was basically up there with like. I think the only things that might surpass it is like maybe like Vegas or something, where you can obviously get fantastic 5-star that was very, very luxurious. But the hotel seemed very nice. The country itself seemed all right. Unfortunately, the event itself wasn't that great, but that's not really any indictment of the country, I don't think.
No. I mean, I'm glad you had a good time. Certainly, Croatia has been, I think it's a great country. I've had lots of solid reviews. And it's had esports events out there for a while, and they haven't always gone well. In Counterstrike Source, there was an event that a lot of people will remember. It was called Gamers Yacht. It was one of the worst events in Counterstrike Source history, as in literally, it just didn't happen. And it turned into a holiday for all the attending teams. It became some logistical nightmare, basically like Gaming Paradise in a lot of ways. It became like some logistical nightmare where it was so hot out there in the summer. A lot of the wires melted on the floor. It was just physically impossible to have the event. So in the end, it just didn't happen. I was a little bit wary about when I saw event in Split again. Been here before. I remember Gamers Yacht quite well. It seemed to go slightly better this time around. But like you say, it wasn't a great event. One thing that I thought was great was their stage host. What a fucking legend this guy is.
I disagree.
Tell me why you disagree. Because, I mean, obviously, I'm in Vegas at the moment, so there's a time disparity. We were having to get up pretty late to watch the games, or pretty early, depending on which way you look at it, whether you're a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of guy. I felt immediately hyped. Right from the second. It was impossible for me to go back to sleep because I was cringing so fucking hard. There was no chance. I was wide awake. And I knew that I had to sit and kind of watch this horrible car crash unfold. He definitely got my attention, let's put it that way.
So the problem I have, and you've heard me reference this on other occasions, for example, at ESL events where certain key members of the industry like interject themselves into what would otherwise be a wonderful winning moment for a certain player, Likewise, If you think of any Super Bowl, NBA Finals, the moment everyone always remembers is like the moment you win, because they want to see how does someone react, like what will they do. So all the well everyone remember about this event is that it was a joke. They'll just remember that Na'Vi won and that guy was bravo, like just made a joke out of what should have been like a serious tournament, where it meant something to win. And instead now it's essentially like it doesn't obviously supersede the matches, but in terms of how you'll think back on this event, with all the problems, and then to end like that makes it, in my mind, almost seem like not a legit event. I kind of almost assign it like what I do when I think of Gamescom or Barcelona, those exhibition tournaments where, they're fun, but they're not supposed to be like the most serious tournament where the person who comes second is the second best and all that sort of thing, So unfortunately, I think it did take away some of the what would have been otherwise the like grandeur of the event.
Well, look, let's talk about like what his actual greatest crimes were. I mean, for starters, okay, if you're going to say something like about how many people are watching around the world, get it right. Millions. Come on, mate. Like, he's having a fucking laugh and he's having a bubble. That's unreal. That's unreal. I couldn't believe it
when the worst thing he did was he had that look like he had a couple of lines that he'd use that you could tell were written on paper or something. So one of them is he went, "This is war, real war."
Yeah.
Actually, mate, since you're literally saying you're not speaking in metaphor, it's actually the exact opposite of that. It's like metaphorical and it's a virtual war. So I don't know why you phrased it that way, because you're bang wrong. You're entirely wrong with that.
I just think as well, like mad triggering thing to say in Eastern Europe, you know, like a lot of the people.
As Yanko is fucking stood there from Serbia.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is it real war? Should I get the gun out now, Thorin? We did discuss our exit plan, right? Back to back on the way out.
Back to back, lethal weapon style. But yeah, no, I thought it was just like that. You know, I understand what he was trying to do. But yeah, like when you start talking about, you know, this is what he actually say this is bloody war as well at some point. So it wasn't just war.
Which, by the way, as someone from England, that's rather offensive. Like, how are you going to swear and curse like that? Bloody offensive. I don't pay.
War.
Exactly.
But yeah, it was absurd. Look, here's a question, a general question, because you know we're gonna have to stretch this show out real nice because there's not a lot going on.
It is the question, if I was in a room with Hitler, Stalin, and that guy, and I had 2 bullets, how would I use both on that guy?
No, it definitely isn't the question.
Okay.
The question is this: why the fuck do we have hype guys still? That's the question. Why the fuck do we have that? Like, I don't understand the role of a hype man. You know, like we've made jokes about it. Like, okay, like it's an outdated thing. Like when you're Muhammad Ali, you've got Drew Bundini Brown doing your rhymes. You know what I mean? Like, okay, that makes sense. When you're Public Enemy, you've got Flavor Flav. Yeah, boy, that makes sense. Why the fuck in esports do we have hype guys on stage to hype a crowd? Why don't, I don't know, just a novel thought, why don't the appearance of these stars in our fucking athletic field, why isn't that enough to hype a crowd? Why aren't the games enough to fucking hype a crowd? Why don't we just let the games do the talking? Why do we need some fucking spiv in a fucking suit coming out going, put your hands in the air? Like, what do we need that for? Why do we need that?
I also don't think it's necessary in as much as we've actually got to the level now with the kind of budget and production value that some events have, that I think if you're going to do that, I would prefer to just do it as kind of like what they tried to do at Cluj Napoca, do like pre-recorded videos and have a guy that's like, welcome to the stage, EnVyUs. And then it's like a pre-recorded thing of like moments of them like winning a cup or shooting a fry. I think if you're going to go that way, go the fully produced aspect. Don't rely on some guy who's like, last week was doing a bar mitzvah, next weekend's doing a wedding, and then 4 weeks later carving his name on the fucking rafters before hanging himself.
I hope that doesn't happen. I hope
we all have different hopes for life, you know.
Hopes and dreams.
I hope he will never be remembered, but he obviously will be for being a cunt.
Like, did you get to talk to him? Did you get to talk to him backstage?
No. I'm pretty sure every time he came off stage, they just went and fucking put like mad amounts of chemicals into his system and put him into a deep sleep or something. Like 3 hours later, we had to pull him out. I think what was happening was the only way you get a human like that, Richard, is it's much like the movie Street Fighter that came out, I believe, in about, what must it have been? Probably about 95, maybe 95 for Street Fighter.
Yeah, 95.
So I think the only way you get a human like that is much like how they created Blanca in the Street Fighter version, where they locked him into sort of like a chair and showed him scenes of violence, much like in this scenario, real war, you know. He was just shown
real bloody war
of wars and all horrible stuff. And then they would just pump him full of drugs, steroids and stuff. And then they would just unleash him every hour or so to be like, this is real war. And then after the segment, they like lights quickly go out and they quickly restrain him. Like, come back, Blanca. I mean, Utro, or whatever the fuck your name really is. Stop him back in. Pump the drugs in and then they just sleep, my creature, sleep until we need you for the final. I think that's what weapon with him.
What I like is this is the second week in a row we've actually referenced the Street Fighter movie as well, which is like,
it's a hell of a movie, isn't it, Richard?
I prefer Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
Just saying, you know, if you can work a reference in for that at some point, it had a way better soundtrack. Let's put it that way. So anyway, look, I don't know. Like, I don't think we'll ever see that guy again. Like, is there a chance that he was just some dude, like, who just was, like, friends with the person who was organizing it, and they were like, look, come on, you're good at this, mate.
Okay.
Come on, you're good at this. You've done this for... Remember that night we all went out and we all got arseholed on rum, and you got up and you started talking about bloody war in that deep voice. You're good at this.
See, I thought you were going to go a different way there, Richard. When you said just friends with, I didn't know you were going to say the organizer. I thought you were going to say what happened is he just happens to be the roommate and friends with the guy who was meant to do it. The guy who was meant to do it is a Croatian legend who does all the boxing matches. Welcome to the event, ladies and gentlemen. Very professional guy. And what happened is that guy died tragically. And as the other guy was waiting for the ambulance to arrive, he notices that guy's like got a text message to his phone. He checks it. It says, like, are you still on to do that event tomorrow? As we agreed, €700 cash in hand. And he goes, wait a minute. Now listen, my friend's dead. He can't benefit from that anymore. But I reckon I could pull that off, right? I could do that. Problem is, he then got to the venue and he sees this huge venue before him and he goes, oh, fuck, I realize, you know, it's going to take a lot of nerves to go out there and do this. What if I flub my lines or whatever? And then this old guy looks over and he just goes like, oh, I've got something that'll calm your nerves down, son. And he hands him like this bottle of like cough medicine. And he goes, hey, have a bit of this. And then he goes, no, whoa, just a capful, man, just a capful. He drank so much cough medicine, which obviously in Croatia, much like the deep south of America 15 years ago, is full of promethazine or whatever that's called.
Yeah, so sipping on some scissor.
This guy's crunk. This guy's straight. What do you call it when they're actually on that? He's leaning. This guy's straight leaning, Richard.
Drinking lean.
And he ain't got no purple drink in there. He hasn't got any soda. There's no Sprite in there. He's just going straight promethazine to the dome. And then he's going out there. Time dilation's happening. He's experiencing the universe. It's like you put the universe into his brain and fired it out like a cannon. That's what he's experiencing in the moments when he's trying to trying to come back out of it. He's trying to come back. You know, like when a fighter has been, well, classic example. You know when Holly Holm got choked out in that show. Yeah. So you know how, because she didn't go to sleep, she sort of like fought at the end of it, like, because she was like, her brain was going up. That's like what was happening to him as he was trying to spot. He would come out every now and then, but then he'd go back into it, you know.
So long story short, is it time to do away with hype people on stage? Because
the thing, like, I know we should have camps for them, and we should just get rid of them all, Richard. I'm done with them.
I'm not necessarily saying they have to fill in some sort of very awkward questionnaire, and then the people in the suits are going to come for them. What I'm saying is, you know, like, I think they're superfluous. I just don't see what they do anymore. Like, back when esports was a weird thing and people didn't really understand it, and we'd be on at expos, right? So, like, obviously you need somebody there to sort of, like, say to the crowd that are, like, all slack-jawed, wondering what the fuck is going on, that this is what's going on. It made sense in 2005. I don't think it makes sense as much now. People are there to see the players and the teams. You don't need to hype it up. Everyone's going to be fucking hype anyway. You don't need to frame it as if bloody warfare is going on in a country that's had its fair share of bloody warfare just to try and, like, push some emotional buttons. It seems ridiculous. Got to say as well, I mean, people were complaining about the lack of a crowd. Looked like there was more there than Katowice at some points. Can you confirm or deny?
No, the crowd is fucking appalling. Like, the stadium looked like it might have been able to fit 10,000 people. No exaggeration. I would put money down they never had 200 people in the building.
Yeah.
Like, it was terrible. Like, on the first day, Thursday, they had maybe, it looked like 50, 60 people. Maybe more. Maybe they could have 100, okay? Maybe it could be that. It's always hard to tell that because obviously you have to, like, figure out how many rows there is and how many people there's. Maybe 100. But put it this way, there's no way the event ever had like 1,000 people. And then on Friday, that's another thing, by the way, the event didn't give a fuck about Counterstrike. They scheduled an event on Thursday and Friday in a country where people work and go to school. I wonder why there's no crowd. And then they gave Dota Saturday and Sunday. That's like literally just saying, fuck you, we don't care about your game.
Yeah, it's the same old. When are we going to get, you know, Counter-Strike Lives Matter, mate? When are we going to get some fucking respect?
If I wanted an event organizer to prioritize a fucking shit MOBA game over Counter-Strike, I'd go to ESL, the industry's leader in that.
Exactly. So look, let's jump into some of the games. I think the big talking point at that event was obviously NRG. Now, it's no secret that while I was out in Vegas, I spent some time with the NRG guys. And their tournament got off to a weird fucking start. One of the most ridiculous fucking injuries
I've ever heard of. Possibly, like this would be a ridiculous injury in any scenario, not just like an esports setting. But PTR on a plane, bit of turbulence, I broke my leg. I mean, look, right, far be it from me to suggest this fucker needs more calcium in his diet, but what the fuck's going on there? I couldn't believe it. And then when I saw the photos of it, because I don't know, I'll be honest, right? I know Pete. I think he's a good guy. But I was like thinking, there's more to this than meets the eye. Like they've already landed and they've gone out and got drunk, and Pete's tried to do some backflip and he's fucking broke his leg while pissed, or he's tried to smuggle some dank green into the country and got wrecked. Like I don't know. Like there's got to be a fucking better story here. Nah, there's no better story. He actually did break his fucking leg on a plane, and not even like slightly break it. He fractured his fibula. I just don't even know how that happens. So that was like super fucking bizarre to begin with.
Well,
I know you know Dr. Duncan, but
so let me tie a few threads together. Watch our work here, Richard. This is going to be masterful. So a lot of people don't know this, but I referenced it on the last show that when we saw IEM Katowice and Guardian was like woefully underperforming compared to the incredible level we expect from him normally, as he showed at this tournament, everyone was like, oh, I guess Guardian just had an off tournament. And it turns out actually he had some sort of hand injury, but just being that he's Guardian and he's a very quiet guy, he just didn't bother mentioning it. He just thought, oh, I won't bother mentioning to everyone that the reason why I played badly is actually my fucking hand is busted up. So here's the thing. I'm going to combine all these storylines together, Richard. Maybe it turns out just like Guardian, just a total warrior, just puts up with it, doesn't say anything, doesn't complain, just plays his games. Maybe I have to send an apology out there. Fox, if you're listening, I realize now you're just a warrior. Every single event you go to, there's turbulence, you break your hands, like your keyboard fingers all fucked up, and you're just playing through it anyway. You're getting the odd kill here and there. You're trying your hardest. If you can't do anything, you know what? If you can't get a kill, you at least drop a Glock for someone. Anyway, you see what I did there? Where I worked it in. I got all the memes.
You roll back the years. That's what I like to see. But yeah, it was just a fucking crazy story. And here's the thing. So like that immediately for me, if you know how NRG work and how they play, a lot of their tactics are built around PTR and his AWP work. And certainly he's had a slight dip. He had a couple of maps. I think in ESEA's Pro League, where he didn't play too well. But generally, he's a very important player for them. So at that point, I was like, well, I'd kind of called the potential for an upset against EnVyUs. But like as soon as he was like laid up and wasn't going to be able to play, I was like, nah, they're fucked now. They're fucked. And then I was like, actually, though, what if God B used his connections to get Nico in from Mouse Sports for one event? Wouldn't that be sick? Right, and then wow, this could be super interesting. Didn't get Nico as a stand-in. Nah, they get Tabson. So I'm like, this is a bit fucking underwhelming. This is bad. They don't really have a designated AWPer. So they get there and they play EnVyUs, and of course, as we know now, they fucking beat them. They upset them. They upset EnVyUs with Devil in the lineup. Now, I guess the first talking point is, was this like a terrible EnVyUs, which we'll get into in a little bit, or was this a very good NRG, somewhere in the middle? What did you make of it all?
EnVyUs wasn't good, but in a very specific way. Like their CT sides on every map were pretty good, and then basically their T side is what had fallen apart. And if you notice the old EnVyUs, even as in just the line that had Kiyashima, I have to call it old EnVyUs at this point in time, the one thing they had was usually the T side, actually. It was usually the T side that was sick, and then CT side they'd force buy and lose the game. So this time around it was different, and part of that's because Kenny S was doing really well, and AWPers usually are going to be sick on CT side. So basically, here's the thing. EnVyUs was not good. They did look like they were in quite poor form. It looked similar to the Katowice form. And so it's not like beating the real world champs in that sense, even though obviously technically you did. You also have to consider the fact that it's time for people to just admit that they don't want to watch a sport and that they want to watch like a television show. Because anyone who says, oh, our NRG wrecked EnVyUs, well, I mean, every fact that you can find tells you otherwise. Like, actually, EnVyUs essentially would have won the series 2-0 if Tabson hadn't gone completely crazy on map 1. And then even when that happens, and after map 1 loss, EnVyUs wreck Cobblestone, utterly dominated. Like there's no question. The only dominant map in this whole series was EnVyUs wrecking NRG on Cobblestone. Third map comes along, Mirage, very exciting game, back and forwards. It goes to the overtime, and NRG just pip it, including one of the worst players on the team getting that like 4 kill that was absolutely crazy, where he spread them all down, and it was in incredible fashion. So essentially, it was one of the most narrow wins you could get. So props to them for doing it. But the point is, there wasn't like some huge disparity where they were fantastically above the level of EnVyUs. Like actually, EnVyUs on pretty much every map was in good positions and then fucked up all the way back. And then obviously you have to give credit to be able to do that. Just because the team shows you weakness doesn't mean they will lose the game. To be able to win that game is very difficult. But I would say not only was it a great upset, but it was also a massive fluke.
So what? There was nothing about NRG that impressed you? Because obviously, you know, I might be a little bit biased here, but I look at what they're trying to do tactically. I still think God B is still innovating now, even in this sort of late stage in his career. I thought the sort of unknown quantities of NA, Silent and Justin, I thought they both stepped up. This was like their first international event. You know, they're both very young and inexperienced players, just in terms of how, you know, with the kind of top teams that they've played for in their careers. And I thought they both performed admirably. You know,
I think that's going a bit far. Like, here's the thing.
Admirably? You think that's a bit too far?
Silent was terrible, mate. Silent averaged a 0.59 KPI. You'll very rarely find a pro player that's at that sort of level who's any good. So for the whole event, it wasn't very good. Now, he had one round where he was good. One round does not make your whole career. You know?
Oh, like, no, more than that. I agree with that. But again, this is their first international event.
Okay, well, the way I would break it down is like this. The Justin guy looked like he had some potential. He was pretty good. He had some good CT sides. I can't give too much credit to God B because nearly all the key rounds they won were on the CT side. So it's not like he like broke down every like strategically and penetrated all over the map and made some. It was more like they just all played really well on CT side in general. And also, they would never be in the position to win if Tabson didn't have like the game of his life. Like you have to realize Tabson is not a new player. He's not someone where we just haven't seen him go to a big LAN. The guy has played for essentially like all of CSGO pretty much. He's played for years and he's never been some sick player. He's just an okay player he's like a slightly below average European level pro player. And what happened is he had one map, Dust 2, the most free-for-all map, where he did have a really sick game, had like 30 kills, and he pulled them over the line, and it would be a very close map. The third game was the one where I thought most players had a good impact on CT side. Silent was just okay in that one, but he obviously had the key round that everyone remember, so props to him for that. But I don't put it this way, I don't see what the reason to get excited about them is. Like, let me put it this way. So the best player in their team wasn't there. The best player on their team in the upset isn't a player for their team and will not be joining their team. One of their players had one crazy fluke round that happens once in a lifetime. And essentially, God B, he's a known quantity. Legia, known quantity, and the Justin guy had some potential, and Silent looked actually like he's still got a lot to do if he wants to be considered top pro. So, listen, this is why I don't get people. I don't understand people. You just beat the world champions in super close fashion. Is that not enough? Are you supposed to now win 7 more lands as well? I think that's a pretty amazing thing to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. And like, this is what I mean. It's like, I've talked about this a lot, where it's like, people, you know, we don't ever really accept sort of a position. Like, you know, if you've got the potential to be 6th best team in the world and you don't really have the potential to go beyond that, you'll find that people will be like, oh, you know, they've plateaued. They really need to change the roster. Same old team. It's as if being 6th isn't an achievement in and of itself. And like, people don't really seem to accept where you're meant to be. Now, the reason I want to talk about NRG and their potential is that I do feel that they can actually be one of the better teams in NA with some time and with some events under their belt. Like Silent might not have performed to the level expected of an international quality player here at this event, but certainly in the build up to this event, he was like top fragging in multiple ESL games. He was like, you can see he's made a massive improvement. Considering when this roster was put together, if you had to say who's going to be the first one out the door, it would be Silent. I don't know necessarily if you can, say that immediately now. Plus, they had the problem at this event where it was the designated AWP that went out, and I think everybody picked up the AWP at some point, with perhaps the exception of God B.
I think everybody was AWPing on certain rounds and whatnot, and that certainly didn't help. So I don't think this was like a true reflection of NRG. I just feel like where they are in terms of like the US scene, I actually think they've got the potential to be certainly further up the pack, you know, while that settles. I mean, you know, no disrespect to any rosters, but no, in fact, no, I won't even call anyone out. I'll just go so far as to say I think they can be, you know, a decent team. You know, I'd like to see more of them. I'd like to see them get involved in a few of the big leagues, just to see what Gobby can do with them given enough time. So, but yeah, you know, I agree with you. I don't want to overhype them. But I just think, considering there were so many question marks about them, you know, I think they can sort of exceed expectation. Yeah, like put it this way, I think there's more potential for them than there is for like a Splice. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think Splice is shit. So yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, you know, obviously Splice going to a major. You know, like. Like I say, there's a lot going on in the US. It's actually quite an interesting scene at the moment, trying to figure out who's the best and, you know, all of that stuff. Anyway, look, let's talk about EnVyUs. This is the real talking point. You know, they brought Devil in, and I guess much like your critique of Silent, in that, you know, you're saying he had like one round and the rest of the time he wasn't very good. The new guy, Devil, I guess I would accept that as a fair critique of him also. He didn't really seem to impress me at all. He didn't look ready. He didn't look an EnVyUs capable player. You know, when they've made roster changes in the past, whoever they bring in slots in there immediately, and you go, yeah, you get it, right? This is a top tier player. Devil, you can see there's a lot of work. In fact, it was very reminiscent of Pitt in his early games in NIP, where it was just kind of fucking painful to watch, you know?
Oh, Devil's crap. Like, Devil wouldn't even be a good player on G2. Like, that, I don't care what everyone says. Every pro in the world can come out and go, oh, the Devil's not the only reason EnVyUs is sucking. Yeah, he's not the only reason. He's a pretty big one, though. He's not adding anything to the team. Yeah, the team doesn't work and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, the whole system doesn't have to be in place for you to win games against NRG. Like, he contributed nothing against what is not even a high-skilled team. And then that's it. Like we've just seen fuck all from this guy. So I don't think it's going to turn out to be a good move. It's true that he's not the reason they're not going to be number one in the world. Like, it's other bigger factors going to hold them back from that. But he's not. Put it this way, let's go the other way, guys. He's not the whole problem. He's definitely not any of the solution, though, is he? He's not any of the solution.
So last week we sat here and we absolutely bodied Kiyashima. Like, we absolutely bodied him. You know, you were saying that he was like Stephen Hawking and not because he knows a lot about black holes, mainly because of the motor neuron disease, I believe it was. Yeah. Now, I didn't see anything from Devil to make me feel like he was an improvement. Like, maybe attitude-wise, he's like, yes, Mr. MBK, sir, I will shine your shoes. Like, and you know, maybe he's a good teammate in that regard. He's just fucking grateful for the opportunity, you know? Like, I don't know, like so anyone who's ugly who gets sex, you know, like, yeah, if you're fucking super appreciative of it, you put all the fucking effort in because you don't know when you're going to get the opportunity again. Not speaking from experience, obviously. So, you know, like, that's what if that's all that Devil's bringing to the table, he didn't look any better than Kiyashima in terms of skills.
No, but there's the key thing. No one who's half a brain is saying bring back Kiyashima, because the key thing was Kiyashima was shit. What we're saying is he's not a solution. He's not an upgrade. Certainly, I agree with that. Like, he doesn't even seem to have the potential that Kiyashima did if Kiyashima got any better back towards when he used to be good. But the point is, Kiyashima was shit, and as far as I can tell, removing him was the right answer. They didn't find the correct second part of the equation, which is who do you bring in, you know? Like, if I had to pick someone removed from that team, he would be one of my first ones. Kiyashima, get the fuck out the door.
I do feel as well, like, watching EnVyUs play, like, you know, fucking Kenny S has got to be thinking to himself, like, what the fuck is going on in my life? Like, what have I done? Like, I don't know. He must have pushed like one of them fucking gypsies who sell the lucky heather down a flight of fucking stairs and been cursed, because he's back to the life of Titan, which is, you know, 50 frags, yeah, no problem. You know, putting the team on your back, putting a game on your back, but you're still losing. And like, his form is godlike right now, but he'll never get a chance to prove it deep into tournaments because the whole EnVyUs machine is malfunctioning.
Yeah, he was sick. I mean, part of the problem is, here's the difference. In Titan, when he was scored, they dropped him the AWP every time. Sometimes Happy takes the AWP still. Like Happy, this guy doesn't learn. Because he's arrogant as fuck. You'd have to realize, here's the thing people don't know about Happy. He isn't just some guy. Like, if you talk to someone like pronax, they're actually very reasonable people. They're like, oh no, this team that I beat here, it was very hard to beat them and I had to figure this out. And you know what? Sometimes we got lucky on these rounds and then we had to do blah, blah, blah. Someone like Happy, go and read his interviews. He's like, I broke the meta game. I recreated a new way to play the game. Existence is shit. He doesn't know anything. He's stuck in the old way. Guess what, mate? You're stuck in the old way. You're fucking baiting your whole team and then getting like 19 kills, taking the AWP from Kenny S and go, why aren't you carrying Kenny? Sniper who needs a sniper rifle. Guy's a mad bait.
Yeah, but is it that bad? Okay, because like, you know, we get accused of this a lot, Duncan, where you know, we invent a narrative. I like to think we observe something that's happening. We comment on an observable phenomenon, but then sometimes for the benefits of entertainment, do we ever get drawn into hyperbole and kind of stretch something out to the point where, you know, actually it's not entirely true? You know, this thing about Happy being a beta, like I can see it, you know, like I watch a game and I watch him, you know, at the back of the pack trying to like pick up a few scutty kills. I count how many rounds he's the last one alive, and it's always, you know, overwhelmingly more than anyone else in his team. I see the tactics where it's like, yeah, you four push into banana, I'm just going to hold bottom of mid, you know, like, and he deliberately breaks away from the pack sometimes to get, you know, wraparound kills and whatnot. So I see all of that, but I don't even think that's necessarily his biggest failing, because he does actually, you know, he does get the frags. He is a very competent player. For me, the biggest failing as an in-game leader is just like, there is no tactical innovation from EnVyUs anymore. There just isn't. In fact, sometimes they're not even doing basic executions properly. It's
remember, he's not the in-game leader anymore.
Well, yeah, okay, but that's what they all say. I mean, you know, I don't necessarily buy it. I almost think it's like kayfabe. I think it's a work, because, you know, I've known Nathan all his playing career. I don't buy it.
No, I think it's
literally
true.
Don't buy it.
Like, that's the reason why I call him a beta now, and I explicitly stressed that he wasn't a beta in the past. Because the difference is he was one of the best at making it work, of being a pure lurker and sending other people to the other site, but then having an impact on the round. Whereas what he does now does suggest to me that he's not the in-game leader, and that's his whole problem. He actually, it turns out, it wasn't that he was getting the kills and in-game leading, and that was some incredible dual act where he was doing two of the hardest things in the game. What it turns out is he had to be the in-game leader to make that style effective. And now that he isn't the in-game leader, what happens is he sends people off over the other side of the map. He isn't really communicating in the way an in-game leader does. He's just another player. And so some rounds, he just has no impact. Like Yanko described it best, where he said that like on some rounds, the positions Happy takes is like a super passive lurker, where he's not showing at all in certain positions. If the other people who are going to the other site get into the site, then people who are the CTs will have to rotate. Now, they either know Happy could be there, which makes them rotate a different direction or go slower, or they go through, and because he hasn't shown himself, he can get free kills on the people. So in that scenario, that is perfect. That's genius, because then you take the site and you're killing all the rotators. So it's going to be really hard for CTs to win. Problem is, if there's a round where the team goes to the other site and they all die before they get in and they don't plant the bomb, and Happy's just left, and there's maybe one or two like stragglers left, and they're trying to figure out what to do. Now he's had zero impact on the round, and he has essentially just been baited. At that point in time, he's just going to be full health, hasn't shown anywhere, and has nothing to do with the round. And so that round, you've lost already, and there should never be scenarios like that. So his problem is, if he was the in-game leader, maybe he can like balance that better. Maybe he knows the timing better of when to do something. He has at the moment hasn't got like a plan B. Like what he needs is he needs some sort of a plan B where when it's not going exactly as we expected, he can then have some kind of aggressive impact on the game. So at the moment he has none. Like the most ridiculous ones is I saw rounds where he would be like, they would be doing a P250 save and he would still be the last guy in, like way behind everyone else. Like at that point in time, mate, you're not a lurker anymore. Like that's just baiting.
What are you thinking about the tactics of EnVyUs? Because, you know, let's go with the assumption that, you know, it is Nathan that's doing it all, and he's coming up with these ideas, and it's his responsibility. Again, I'm not completely convinced by that at all. But they just, like I said, they're trying to do this like brute force style that used to be super effective for them on their T sides. You know, their executes were just absolutely savage. Couldn't do anything to stop them. They would come in and they would just pick both people on a site. You're in a 5v3 almost immediately, and they would just run over you. Now, this isn't happening anymore. And in fact, actually, they seem to be getting caught out, like on the CT side as well. Like they're really, really struggling. It's not like a lack of firepower, because obviously they've got firepower in abundance. And right now they've got Kenny S really, you know, performing to the peak of his powers. So it's got to be a tactical failing, right?
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't think they even use Kenny S. They don't acknowledge that Kenny S is the star player, and therefore they don't play around him. Every other world-class AWPer has the whole game built around him. JDM on CLG. You look obviously at Guardian over on Na'Vi. This is the only player who's a world-class AWPer. A device on Astralis. Kenny S is the only guy who they treat as if, oh no, we're all equal in this team, and we all just know anyone can be the star, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, they aren't, mate. Half the team that isn't a star anymore and doesn't do anything. And the one that tilts me the most is this is one of the things I hate about CS fans, is that all they do is just ride the latest wave of whatever happened. Okay, so if someone did badly in a tournament, they're shit, and if someone did amazingly, then they're amazing. Like people telling me Silence an awesome player because he had one round. So in this particular tournament, you saw, same as you did at CounterPit, why when Apex has insane games, so at StarLadder, okay, when EnVyUs beat Fnatic, Apex literally had 50 frags in 2 maps. That's unreal entry fragging. That's like entry fragging above and beyond anything you'd ever expect. But the key thing is he then has tournaments like these where he does nothing. He has no impact whatsoever on the game. And that's why you don't put him in your top 10 in the world. And you don't go, this is one of the best players in the world, because it's not going to happen for you. So unfortunately, I mean, that's not going to help you right there if your entry frag is not very good. I also think that whole aspect of where Kiyashima went to shit, and so they actually switched Kiyashima off some of the entry roles and made the entry most of the time Apex working with MBK. I don't think that's as good. Like, I thought MBK was pretty well situated in the old lineup where he was before. So I think add it all together, and what I would do if I was the coach of EnVyUs tomorrow, first thing I'd say is, like, what are the strengths of the team? And I'd ask them that. And I'd say, no, explain to me, who are the best players in the team? Who do we play around? What are our strengths? Because at the moment, they couldn't tell me. Like, the strength isn't T-side anymore. The strength isn't running these strats. The strength isn't force buying anymore. One of the key maps, okay, the first map, the Dust 2 game, it was 13-13, and EnVyUs were on terrorist side. They then force bought every single round. They lost the game 16-13. Now, someone made a tweet, okay, a guy who's actually a StarCraft 2 writer, but he's starting to get into CSGO and Dota 2, a guy called Stu Chu from Team Liquid. And what's good is, because he's really good at analyzing StarCraft and knowing how the narratives work and what, like, factors to follow, every now and then, even though he doesn't know that much about the other games, he'll nail, like, a great way to phrase something in another game. So he said, his comment about the CSGO game where they lost NRG on Dust 2, which basically nails it. He just said, if the force buying approach doesn't win against NRG, doesn't that sort of invalidate it as an approach? If it can't win against the NRG CT side on Dust 2, then who is it going to win against, essentially? And I kind of see what he means there. You force ball all those times, you got nothing from it. You have some of the best players in the world.
So, I mean, there's a lot of criticism being leveled at Maniac because, you know, he's the coach, he's come in, and nothing seems to really have changed.
Oh, I don't think anything's changed. Yeah, I mean, I look at the team, and I can't listen. Obviously, he could be trying stuff, and maybe they're doing something different, but just doesn't show up. That's all great, but I can only look at what I see in the server. It doesn't look to me like anything's changed. And so, on one level, that by default, I guess, makes you a bad coach if you can't get through to the players and get them on your side. But I also do think, if you ask me, this reminds me of when Natu joined NIP. And he was the coach. And I know for a fact he was trying to get them to do things, and they wouldn't, because they're NIP, and they all have mad egos, and they all think the game should be played a certain way. Oh, wait a minute. That sounds familiar. Mad egos think the game should be played a certain way. EnVyUs is the fucking same. You can't tell these guys what to do. Mate, you can't even tell Happy to let the best AWPer of all time have a fucking AWP. Are you going to get through to him on anything else?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I agree as well. Obviously, we've worked with Maniac. Like, he's a smart guy, you know. His intelligence is never in question. You know, we've been critical about him as a player, and I think transitioning into this coach and analyst role definitely makes sense for him. You know, he's great to work with on a desk. He's great at events. But yeah, I agree. I think some players are just fundamentally uncoachable, and I don't know what you have to do to kind of break that cycle and empower a coach. But I'd really like to be a fly on the wall and see what was going on.
in the EnVyUs camp, because it almost feels like Maniac's appointment, not through any fault of his own, but it feels almost like tokenism. Like EnVyUs knew that to be taken seriously, to say to the public, yeah, we're totally trying to address the problems in our team. Like, we should be the best team in the world. You know, we should have entered into an EnVyUs era after we won. But all their fans are like, yeah, but you're just not trying. So what do? You go out and you appoint a coach. And I feel, again, that was like what NIP were doing.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly like NIP did, right? Because they didn't want to change players. So likewise, same thing. They didn't want to kick a Kiyashima, so you just get a coach instead. Now we fixed it, guys. We're going to do whatever this coach tells us. What's that? We're playing exactly the same way. Oops.
Yeah, and you know, they've made a roster change now. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where this roster change is going. I think this is going to. Like, I think when we skip forward 3 months, I think we're going to look back on this as a mistake and a misstep. And I don't know how you fix that at that point, because I don't know who else is out there in France or Belgium that they can use and bring in, which brings me to one of your tweets. Now, obviously, every time you tweet, it seems to make it to the front page of the CSGO subreddit. This one was you saying G2 might be the best team in France right now. I think based on recent form and recent results, I think the worrying thing is that might be true.
No, that's not a good thing.
Yeah,
like, I'm not saying G2 is awesome.
Yeah. But you know, I think right now, I think if you were to sit both of those teams down and put them in a best of 3, I think G2 might just come out on top. I think they're going to get more consistent results as well.
The whole point of why I said that comment as well is because if you wait until the major happens and EnVyUs goes out last place and G2 makes it, like Miracle makes it to the round of 8, then everyone will go, well, I know that. So the whole point is I'm just saying it now. That's why I said might, because I'm not certain. I'm just pointing out that my observation at the moment is if I look at G2, I can tell you all those things I couldn't just tell you about EnVyUs. Who's the star player? What are the strengths of the team? What maps are they going to be strong on? What sides are they going to? I can run through the whole list. Now, when I get to the end of it, I'm not going to, at any point in time, I've said they're world class on this map, and this player is a top 10 player in the world, and they're going to beat all of these top teams in upset wins. The key thing with G2 is they're like the gatekeepers of the top 10. Like I said on a past episode, they're probably not going to win any big series over any team above them in the rankings, but they're going to do solid. They're going to get out of a group stage. I don't know if they will at the major, but they've got a chance to. They're going to get out of a group stage in a normal scenario. They're going to take maps off top teams, and they're going to do to this. They're going to perform to a certain level. Whereas for EnVyUs right now, I still don't even think this is the end. I still think that they have such a crazy amount of skill that even though at the moment the curve's like this, they could just take a blip and go like that and make like the semis of the major. This still could happen. They have so many good players.
Yeah,
but they don't have any consistency whatsoever in terms of like what you expect from a top team.
And this, I think this is the big issue. I think this is the worrying thing. There's a major just around the corner. And actually, if we're being real about it, you know, right now, with maybe the exception of RV, I don't really see, you know, because Luminosity are in a slump as well at the moment, results-wise. You know, fuck, they're losing to Cloud9, for fuck's sake. You know, everyone seems to be entering this like weird, you know, all the usual suspects, and it just kind of sets it up for a Fnatic win. Which, hey, look, that'll be fucking great for Fnatic. But you know, obviously, as a neutral in this, I definitely want somebody else to take a major. You know, like I'd like to see an Astralis finally get there, or a Na'Vi, you know, get the win. You know, but like I definitely don't put EnVyUs anywhere near the running for it. And that'd be the first time I think I've ever said that about this French lineup. So I think things are looking bad. You know, like this is as bad as it. This is the darkest timeline for EnVyUs fans because Devil's not going to fucking bail him out. I'm looking across at the scoreboards right now. He's like 3 for 12 against Na'Vi right now. That's happening right now while we're doing this show in the ESL Pro League.
This is what you call comeuppance. I mean, I'm not going to reveal anything that's said privately, right? Because I actually, just personally, I think unless someone's like, the only time I tend to reveal something said privately is if someone's lying using something said privately, and therefore to correct the story, you have to do so. They've essentially forced your hand there. But I'll just tell you the general tone that when EnVyUs made that lineup that had Kenny and Apex in it, and they had that really good run of events, and they were beating Fnatic, and they were beating Astralis, although TSM at the time, and they were winning tournaments, they were the most smug players I've ever seen in CSGO. As in when Fnatic was winning all those tournaments and majors, they weren't as smug as this. When NIP was on top, they weren't as smug as this. These guys not only thought they were easily the best, They thought that they could like beat any team, that they'd cracked how to play CS. They'd got like the secret formula, and that no one was ever going to beat them again. And that if they played to their potential, they should win every match and every tournament. And then what's the odds? Immediately after that, they literally started to go downhill. And exactly the style which had brought them their success now doesn't work and is fucking them up the ass. And that's what you call sweet Charlie.
I definitely don't call it that. But no. But you can. No, who can stop you? So one final thing, because I thought it was worth mentioning for continuity's sake. Obviously, another news story was that NRG had a celebrity investor, someone you might be familiar with. Yeah. Your boy Shaq is invested in NRG. And I thought it was quite funny because someone tweeted something at me like, what was it? I guess Shaq gets the last laugh over Thorin because he knows his CS team's better than him. He's hitting where it hurts, right in the analysis. I don't know what that means. I'm not going to pretend I know what it means, but I just thought you might want to comment on the old Shaq-a-rooney.
I mean, the first thing to say is he's not the owner of NRG, for anyone who's unaware of how like ownership works. As far as I could tell, the story was that he and someone else invested.
Yeah, they just invested. Yeah, that's it.
So that actually tells me that someone probably here's the thing. I know Shaq knows about gaming, so maybe Shaq knows about esports, not least because Rick Fox was a teammate of his. So maybe he thought, well, it would be fun to have some sort of stake in a team that might do something. It isn't like people imagine. Like he thought, oh, I'm going to buy energy, and then what I'm going to do is for League of Legends, I'm going to buy Faker, and then I'm going to buy Olofmeister for the CSGO team. And even though my personal fortune is about 300 million, I'm going to spend 20 million just on this fucking sick player for 1 year. Like, get real. This isn't a fucking movie, guys. He just invested some money into an all right NA org. So yeah, it's cool. It's nice. I think. Okay, you ready for the conspiracy theory here, Rich?
Yeah, let's do it. I love that. Does it involve jet fuel? So,
in the E-League, it has already been leaked by Rick Fox that his team is in the E-League. Mm-hmm. Now, there is zero good reason why that team, that lineup, Elekeko Fox, would be in the E-League. There's only one reason. That's Rick Fox. Even Sean Gez isn't a good enough reason. Because if Sean Gez was a good enough reason, then you'd invite Pronax's team. Because he's an even better leader with a better history. So the only reason that you let Echo Fox in the league, you ready for the reason, is so that since you're TNT, who already knows how to produce basketball featurettes, you want to do features that are like, hey, Rick, what do you think of your team? Famous fucking NBA player who we can now talk to each week. Hey, Rick Fox bought a team. Here's the backstory of how he thought esports is legit. And he's going to help the whole league get legitimized. I think same thing with NRG. By having Shaq come on board, now magically they're going to get an E-League spot, I speculate, and they're going to get in because everyone wants to do a fucking feature on Shaq that they can put on TV. Like, oh, Shaq thinks esports is a real thing, and look, he bought this team, and you know what? Him and Peter are such great friends now that Peter's foot is the same size as his foot. I always got to find a way to get it in there. I always got to find that. Yeah.
I think it could be good though. I like the idea of, I was there when the NBA people, this is way back. I was talking about this like on, it might have been some Unfiltered at the start of the year. Like I liked the idea of NBA people coming into it. Like when esports was first being pitched to all these big TV companies, it was like really weird to see like how the basketball players reacted to it. They were like, oh, well, we can own a team in this, and they were sort of like talking with each other about, like it was an accessory, you got the chain, you got the car, you got the watch, and now you got to have the esports team, and it was interesting. They were all super, it's far be it from me to suggest there's a power paradigm involved where it's like, oh, we'll never own an NBA franchise, but we can own an esports team. But it was interesting. Like they were all super immediately, interested in getting involved in it. So I think there's some good potential there. Rick Fox and Shaq bantering back and forth could be good, right?
See, this has just made me think of what would be the ultimate esports scandal. So loads of NBA players.
Don't go down Donald Sterling route. Listen, you're not going to do that.
No. Loads of NBA players like buying up teams, and they're sponsoring all the teams. And so there's one player gets onto a team and he's not quite good enough, but he keeps getting on the team and staying for a long time. And the scandal that comes out, obviously, is like sexual favors. He's just given the maddest dome to like Derrick Rose of the Chicago Bulls or something. And they're like, listen, white boy gives good top. What can I tell you? That would be the name of the story. White boy gives good top, says former MVP Rose.
So anyway, like we'll move on. I'm sure you and Shaq will cross paths again in the future, and you can dig him out about investing in NRG over someone else. But probably it's a better deal than EnVyUs right now. So anyway, let's talk about the other games that were going on. Obviously, we had Astralis that were there. They're trying to get back to being this kind of consistent team, this team that's kind of going to be a contender. Did they look like a team that could go to this next major and cause some problems, cause some upsets?
I mean, the problem is it's Astralis. So Astralis do the same thing at every single event. What they do is, I've said this before, the only team in 2016 they've lost even a map to offline who were like a below them in the rankings type team is they lost a map to G2, who, as we've established, are a decent team and can get the upset maps occasionally. Everyone else who beats Astralis, even in single maps we're talking here, are the best teams in the world. Fnatic, in the past, EnVyUs, when EnVyUs were very good, Luminosity, these sorts of teams, Na'Vi, that sort of a level. That's the only teams who even take maps of EnVyUs. Astralis, same story here. Astralis just walked all over the teams they played with ease. Admittedly, two not very good teams. Didn't play anyone amazing. Then got to the final, were able to take a map off Na'Vi, looking really good on the second map there. And then in the third map, they did the standard choke. This time, both Device and Dupree got like 9 kills each, shit the bed completely, and they went out without actually contending for the title, even though they got to the deciding map, So the problem there is, if you go to the major, I would say that I would have to at the moment say the same story. Walk all over their group, get out, beat someone in the round of 8 in impressive fashion, get to the semi-final. If they already have a good opponent in the semi-final, lose there. If somehow they make it to the final with a really nice bracket draw, lose in the final. That's like the story at the moment. They're fun because the problem with their team is they really are the only team in CSGO that have this crazy night and day switch. And basically what happens is Device is one of the best players in the entire world. Fuck that, the history of the game. But he has this switch that he flips when he gets to that certain point and just becomes an average player. Like just becomes an okay pro level player. So as long as that happens, I don't know how he's supposed to win.
It seems really strange to me though, because like I know we weren't saying this going into the last major. We were talking about how has Device overtaken Olofmeister? Well, now it seems that he's kind of struggling a little bit with the mantle of being the #1 player in the world. And now, if we're being honest about it, probably isn't even, I don't know, top 5. Maybe he's in there. But he's definitely not top 3. So,
he's the only player in the world that has mental problems.
Yeah. Well, not if you ask Simple. But anyway, it just seems like a strange one for me. Like I agree with you. Like I want to get on board with Astralis. I like what they're doing in terms of the organization. Like I want to back them, but it just seems whenever they go up against actual contenders that they're gonna lose to that whoever is in that top 4 teams in the world at any given point they play them. Does feel like they're gonna lose. They'll come close. It's gonna be a great game. It's gonna be a super exciting match, but they are gonna lose.
There's one good point I can give you, okay, which is I did see something different in the final. Now, anyone who follows me and KGB on Twitter might have seen a few weeks ago, maybe like a week ago, when the IEM tournament was going on, me and him had a backwards and forwards about Tempo Storm's pick ban, where Tempo Storm had allowed through a map that they had never played on LAN to ban another map, which admittedly was a bad map, but that at least they've played before. And the back and forth between me and Cajun was that Cajun said, yeah, but they probably feel more comfortable even playing the map they haven't played over the map that they have played but they're bad on. And so the key point there is, the reason why he said that is because that really is how Astralis have been thinking for the last 6 months. They would rather play a map that they are bad on but feel comfortable playing than a map that I actually think they would be better on, but they maybe don't feel as comfortable on. So as a result, you've seen these weird pick and bans where they pick maps that like they could have gone for the weakness of the opponent and they never did before. What they did do differently here is in the final, the reason why they won Inferno, and actually at one point, like they won 12 to 3 on T side. They smashed Inferno early on. The reason why is because Na'Vi is always going to ban out Cash, okay? So once Cash is gone, the only map that Na'Vi has any weakness on is Inferno. Now, the key thing to note is Inferno is not the best map of Astralis. It's like a middling map for Astralis. So what they showed me in this pick ban that's at least a positive is that they were willing to go against their old philosophy, pick the obvious weakness of the opponent and something that you can win on and just go with that. And as a result, they at least got a map in the final. Whereas if they'd have dicked around and they'd have allowed something like, let's say they'd have picked Mirage as their second, well, they probably would have lost 2-0. So at least there's one positive there that I at least feel like they're coming out of that philosophy, which I think was a loser's philosophy. The idea that we just want to play the map we're comfortable in. If you're the best team, you notice all the best teams, Fnatic, etc., you attack the opponent's weak map pools. You don't just go with like, oh, we'll both play a map that we're really strong and, you know, man, see whoever the best player is, let him win. That's not how you play the fucking game, you know.
No. So look, let's talk about Virtus.Pro. Now, I'm gonna publish an article very soon. I've been doing a lot of writing. The editors at Breitbart have been busy with a few other things, elections and whatnot. So a lot of my content hasn't been going out in quicker fashion. But this is a good old-fashioned opinion piece. And basically, the postulation in my opinion piece is this: that Pasha has been this linchpin for Virtus.Pro in the sense that, you know, he was at one point the best player in the team. He's been the guy that was picking up the AWP. But actually, everything Virtus.Pro do is around kind of trying to maximize Pasha. So if at any point Pasha falls down and doesn't start putting up those numbers and doesn't start delivering, you've got to... It's too important because they do too much to set him up to be the big player. I'm going to give you some examples of this recently, which I know you're aware of, but just maybe the listeners aren't. Obviously, he used to be a designated AWPer. It wasn't working. His AWP play wasn't good enough. They weren't being very effective. They were having some fundamental problems on some maps that were in their wheelhouse. So what did they do? Again, it was on Neo. Neo had to step up and say, okay, Pasha's not having a good time of it. Let's make this work. I'll take the AWP from you. And you start rifling. And for a time, it rejuvenated Pasha, and Pasha was back to his old self. You know, he'd be pushing on maps, you know, especially on train, you know, pushing that Ivy area, just getting kills all the time, kills for fun. Neo was doing really well on the AWP. Virtus.Pro looked reinvigorated. Now they're in this absolute rotten slump of form. Where, you know, coming into this, it was like they'd won 2 out of 22 or something. Just terrible performance. And Pasha's numbers, absolutely awful. Out of the last 20 competitive games before this event, he had 2 positive scores, which is horrifying stats for a star player. At this event, in particular against Na'Vi, he was absolutely absent on especially on that second map on Train, where I think he barely scraped double figures. And for me, I think he's always had a stay of execution because Pasha Biceps is the brand. Pasha Biceps is the big streamer. He does bring a lot of attention to Virtus.Pro. But my postulation in my opinion piece is going to be, I think it's now time to maybe consider, you know, putting Pasha out to pasture. That it is time for him to, you know, just become a streamer or whatever, because I don't see how Virtus.Pro can get reinvigorated. I don't see what more they can change to get Pasha back to this level. That it's like they've tried everything. We're reaching nip point now, where it's like, do you go back to doing something you were doing before and hope that somehow it clicks and fixes everything? Or are you going to make a real change? So I'm looking forward to the death threats and the hate that I'm going to get for that one. But I want to ask if you agree.
Yeah, on most of those details. Like, for example, the big problem I see with Pasha is that basically it's being kind to say that they build the team around him. They have no option. Like, Pasha is not a very cerebral player, and he has a very set-in-stone way of playing the game. It's a very aggressive play. He tries to brute force the game a lot. He takes any aim duel he wants. That's been the way he always has been, even from 1.6. And basically, you either have to not have him on the team, or you have to build the team around him. Now, if you build the team around him, they've had a lot of success. They've had many, many top 4s throughout their careers. They've obviously won a lot of tournaments. They've won a major. So they've done some great things with him as the star player. The big issue to me is that there is no option when he then becomes not very good anymore. Like, he can't become a support player. He can't be like the third best player, because if anything, he's going to perform even worse then. If you then make Snacks and Bialy the best player, now Pasha won't have the support structure around him, will do the same things. He'll just have an even worse performance. And unfortunately, what we saw at this particular tournament, his numbers have been bad for a while now, but this particular tournament, that series against Na'Vi was absolutely dreadful. This was like, there was a, you have to remember, in the series, it was quite close series, actually. Like, the first map was close. The second map, even the one that Na'Vi won heavily, was like 16-10. So if you can go 16-10 while he goes 8-24, like, holy shit, that's you literally single-handedly lost the game. It was you. You're the reason they lost the game.
I mean, I want to say as well that even the overpass when Na'Vi came back, and I think it was like at one point 13-6 or something, maybe even 14-6. I think 13-6 for sure. You know, that was Na'Vi. Like, they were on their T side. They threw away so many fucking rounds in the first half. I mean, they could have been out of sight. It could have been a very convincing scoreline, you know, like it could have been could have been a 16-10, a 16-12, and then obviously Train was a 16-12 as well. It could have been, you know, that way. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Virtus.Pro looked better than they had. This was like their best performance against a high-level team at LAN in 2016, but they still looked, you know, woefully behind the pace, especially with a major around the corner. And Pasha's form right now, it just simply isn't good enough. Now, look, I've been around this game for a while. I remember when Pasha was like this figure of hate when he first came into this lineup with the old Polish lineup, and everyone was like, "Oh, you know, you're the guy who broke up the Golden Five." Everyone hated him. Everyone said he was shit, that he wasn't good enough. He wasn't fit lace the boots of the other. And again, the teammates around him worked with him and made him a great player. And nobody was saying that moving forward by the time CSGO came around. Now, again, I don't want him to be a hate figure, because he actually is a nice guy. Like, you know, there's no getting away from that fact. He's not like one of these people who's like a secret asshole behind the scene, and they go on their stream and they're like, "Oh, I love the children, my friends."
No, it's not Makalele.
Yeah. Right. So, you know, he what you see is what you get, pretty much, right? And I can admire a guy like that, but come the fuck on, man. Like, something's got to change in Virtus.Pro, right? It's going to have to change after the major. So I think what's going to happen is they're going to go to that major and they're going to be fucking disappointing. Well, who are you going to change? You know, you can't drop Snacks. Taz and Neo are going nowhere, right? You know, there might be an argument for Bialy. I think he's been playing better in recent times. I think he's having more of an impact. The obvious choice is Pasha, but obviously because it's Pasha fucking biceps, no one's going to entertain it seriously. And I just think at this juncture, it's like it is time to entertain it seriously.
But the thing is, though, I do think people have to actually respect, in this particular sense, Pasha, right? Which is that I won't count out entirely the notion that Pasha can ever be a good player again. And the reason why I won't do that is, from watching a lot of games for a long, long time, people who were truly great players, we're talking like top 20, top 30 all-time great players, they might not ever get back to being the best again. Probably not. That's unreasonable. But they can always have, their careers can have resurgences, and they can have games where they're good again. They can have series where they're good again. Now, I realize already, I can already predict what's going to happen. They're going to go, but wait a minute, what about Freiburg? All the things you said about Freiburg. Yeah, guess what? Because he was never an all-time great player, mate. I'm talking about the top 30 players of all time. Freiburg was a good player at his role within one of the best teams of all time. Difference is, we can apply that to Nip in the same way. That's the reason why Forrest is never completely done and never has to retire, because he can have a resurgence. He's got that talent, he's got that ability, that experience. The great players can have resurgence that way. So I don't think it's like the end. Like, it doesn't have to, it's not like they have to cut Pasha and it has to be the end of the world. But right now, they are in the most dire circumstances that has to be considered. I mean, it's not going to happen before the major anyway. But if things go badly at the major, it has to be considered as an option. Because here's the thing I would say. In the past, the same thing as what Nip used to say. Oh, but if we cut Freiburg, that's all our fans. What about all the fans who say he's the king of the banana? Here's the thing. Yeah. Guess what? All those fans, and by the way, there's not as many as you think, but let's say there's 20,000 fans who would be sad if Freiburg or Pasha got cut from their teams. Guess what? You win $500,000. You're going to get a lot more money than you would have made off those players, and you'll get a lot more new fans from being the best team in the fucking world. So you have to ask yourself a question. Are we here to be the best team in the world? If you are, you know what choice to make already. If you aren't, then go ahead and be as cynical as you want and make more T-shirts and make like some Pasha crackers and make all sorts of shit like that, because that's the route you're choosing to go down.
Crackers. Oh, mate. But yeah, so look, that would, why not, right? That would beg the question then, who would replace him? And obviously, I don't know if this is like a little bit of ignorance about geography or just the fact that, you know, they're like, it'll work anyway. But everyone's talking about Oscar as a potential replacement. And, you know, I can see that. I think this guy has good form. I don't really know if he's ready to step up and be in a team like Virtus.Pro, but I know the stats don't lie. And they make him look like a player that's certainly going to bring something to the table and can certainly mix it up with elite level players.
I mean, I think he's a sick player, so it's worth a gamble, put it that way. I don't know. Like, I have to say, I've watched all these Polish teams who are the second and third best Polish team. I've seen them play lots of LANs now. I've seen them all have their chances to play against good teams, against tier 2 teams, against tier 3 teams. I actually look at all those other players, and I got to be honest with you, I don't think any of those people can step up and be in Virtus.Pro, because the key thing we're talking about here is you're not joining Virtus.Pro to be the 5th best player in the team. You're joining to replace Pasha and to be a top 2 player in the team. That's the key point to make here. So Michu could be in Virtus.Pro if he has to be like the 3rd best player or maybe the 4th best player, and every now and then give a decent map, and otherwise just stay alive, do okay, be consistent. But he can't join, and he's not going to join and be a world-class player like a superstar. So unfortunately, the big problem is I can't see any Polish player who's the obvious fit there. Therefore, at least with Oscar, as far as I know, he doesn't speak Polish. I don't think he can communicate in the same way, but I think it would be worth trying because I know he can frag people. So it would at least be worth the gamble to try, I think.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, you know, there isn't another player in Poland that looks like a star-level player right now. You know, Hyper had that one performance. People are still talking about it. And it's like, he hasn't really done a lot since. You know, you've got Michu maybe. Yeah, it's just, you know, they've got very competent players. They've got players that can mix it up, go to tournaments, maybe have the odd upset. They've definitely got that. But this is Virtus.Pro we're talking about. You know, the level you've got to be at to fit in with that team, the expectation, it's got to be something special. And a breakup, a roster that's been together as long as this, and take a star player out and bring somebody in, you've got to be something special yourself. Now, Oscar could be an option, but if they decide to stick with Polish players, maybe people they've worked in the past, I don't think that's going to work. I think that'd be a step backwards. Maybe not on like the Devil EnVyUs level, but, you know, potentially up there. Anyway, winners of the tournament were Na'Vi. They looked pretty good throughout. And, you know, I thought the series against Virtus.Pro was great. I liked the series against Flipside. Flipside obviously took a map off them. And then, of course, the final with Astralis. I mean, these were all great, entertaining games. But there's one word to pretty much sum up Na'Vi, and it was Guardian. This guy, just unbelievable. Again, you know, like there's sometimes stats don't lie. There's obviously a lot of times they do. But he was like top at everything, you know, like KPD, damage per round, entry kills, blah, blah, blah. You fucking name it. This guy, I think the only thing he wasn't top of was assists, which obviously you'd expect given how the mechanics of the game work. So just incredible performance by him. And really, it's punctuated by the fact that I was doing all of this with a wrist injury at the moment. Now, I'll talk about his performance and Na'Vi's performance, but there was one thing I just wanted to bring up. So I was watching the games and doing some live tweeting for a change because obviously it was like fucking 4:35 a.m. in the morning and I was trying to stay awake. And Get Right tweeted at me. And Get Right said, in his opinion, given that Guardian has this wrist injury and how serious carpal tunnel and these other injuries can be to the longevity of a pro's career, Na'Vi should have sat this event out and they should have rested him for the major. So I wanted to get your thoughts about that first of all.
I can certainly see that logic. Like if it was me and I was in charge of Na'Vi, I would say, yeah, let's have 2 weeks off, like basically as soon as IEM ends, we'll have 2 weeks off, and then you'll play for a week leading into the major. Obviously, you have to play the major, so we'll play for a week going to the major. The other school of thought, though, would say you're already in sick form. If you take a week off, maybe your overall form will suffer. So instead, you try the opposite. What you try to do is you try to win the major with the injury, and then after the major, rehab it. Like this actually famously happened in basketball, where a lot of people don't know this context. It's funny, people who are fans of a team will always know every excuse as to why this player was injured and this player had problems. And they'll always cite that problems. So when the Lakers won the 2009 and 2010 championship, what a lot of people don't know is that during that entire run and the year before when they made it to the finals, Kobe Bryant, the best player in the team, actually had like a fractured finger where he would play with this makeshift splint that he could bend a little bit to be able to do his jump shot. And he got it after the season where they went to the finals and lost, right? The first season. And so rather than just get it fixed, he said, well, I'm not going to do that because my team could win now. Like, I don't want to take time off in the summer, then have to like work my way into fitness during the season and then worry about us not having the top seed because I was bad in the first 10 games. And so instead, while we can win now, I'm just going to keep playing until we stop winning. So he played for 4 straight years with this particular injury, right? Fucking up his finger. And I don't think he got the surgery until like after they'd got to the point where they weren't going to win the championship anymore. So I can understand that logic too. Like it's true in CSGO and in CS in general, when you have these peaks of being insanely good, they don't just last 3 years and you can't just come back into them whenever you like. So in a way, I could see the rationale of thinking like, well, what's the good in being fully healed? But in 2 months from now, I've cooled off and I'm not like wrecking everyone right now. Like in many ways, even with this injury, this is the best chance Na'Vi has ever had to win a major. Like right now, they really could win the major, and Guardian could be the best player at the major. So I could see both ways. Like personally, I'm gonna like look for the long-term health of my team, and I probably would sit him for a while and think, right, I want Guardian for 2 more years to be fantastic. But I could also see the logic behind like we've never been as good as we are now. Let's just try and win the major, then do something about it.
Overall, what do you make of the team right now? Where do you put them? Because for me, I think they're definitely got to be considered as a genuine contender for the major, not one of those ones that you put out there. Well, yeah, Astralis can win. You kind of don't really believe it. I actually believe in the form they're in now. I think they could go to the major and win it.
Yeah, I
mean, I put them up there.
I have Na'Vi. I think it's clear they're the second best team in the world. Like you can't take anything away from Fnatic. Won 6 fucking events in a row like that. It's game over. Fnatic's the best. But to me, Na'Vi are the clear second best. And that might sound. What's funny is now that they just won this tournament, everyone will be like, "Well, obviously they're second best." No, you same fucks would be telling me Luminosity's better than Na'Vi last month because Luminosity beat Guardian with his hand all snapped in half. Like, how do I hit these AWP shots? Like, yeah, brilliant. Congrats. You beat him barely while I was doing that. So congrats. To me, Na'Vi's the clear second best. Now the only problem is, it's quite clear that Fnatic is their kryptonite. So I don't know if they can beat Fnatic. That's my question. But they might not have to. The way majors go, sometimes people help you out. Someone else beats Fnatic. Someone else has a miracle game. And now you're the best against everyone else. Now you win the tournament. So I think, yeah, after Fnatic, they are the clear second best team in terms of having the chance to win the tournament. They're the only team that at every event not featuring Fnatic that Na'Vi went to they have won. So I think they're an obvious team with has a very good chance to win the major. Unfortunately for them, they also live in the era of Fnatic, so they might get denied it just unfortunately by bad timing.
And any chance that this team, I don't know, like I don't see how they're gonna underperform at any event. Like I can't see it, but like I know that they also sort of feel like they have underachieved a little bit with the roster they've got. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel they should have more trophies in the cabinet. They've had a few kind of finals where they haven't, done quite as well as they should have done. They've had a few tournaments where they've slipped up. Is there a risk that they are like too reliant on this kind of Flamey and Guardian combination? I saw somebody on Twitter was tweeting at me saying, imagine this team if Zeus was the coach instead of Starix and you put Simple in the lineup. People are still talking about that. I mean, I think that right there would be a fucking super team, although personalities might clash. But yeah, is there a chance that they could, go to this major and kind of bomb out? I think they're too good to do it.
No, unless they get Fnatic in the round of 8 due to like one of them finishing first, one of them finishing second, I don't think there is any chance this team fails to make the semi-finals at the very least. So the only way they can not make top 4 is if they get Fnatic round of 8. Everyone else, they will beat in the round of 8 and they will make it to the minimum of the top 4. And at that point, it depends what their draw is like and they could win the tournament. The thing is, here's what people don't realize. Even at this tournament they just won, they weren't at their best. In the round of 8, the reason why they had 3 maps against Flipside is go and look at those 2 games. The first 2 maps, Flamey is terrible. I think on one map he had like 9 kills at one point in time. The other map he has a fairly bad performance. The whole time he's tweeting like, can't get my resolution right. Like for some reason on his monitor, they used a different graphics card. He had to use like I think he had to use like a stretched where he uses black bars or something. So he essentially had a totally different game resolution to what he normally plays on. And it lines up with when he played the worst in the tournament. So take that away, put him on a normal setup, and he's actually been very consistent this year. So when you add in, put it this way, I made my top 5 players in the world recently on Twitter. Only one team has 2 players in there, and that's Na'Vi. So when you have 2 of the top 5 players in the world, you can certainly win a major. It's going to be very hard to beat you. You're going to be so consistent. Because as we've seen, even when one isn't going off, you've got another world-class player going ham on everyone. So it's enough. I think the lineup is enough. Their only downside is they live in the era of this second Fnatic team. So that's unfortunate. But even so, the luck could still come on their side. They could still win the major, I think.
Okay, so let's do some quick news stuff. I mean, we never talk about any of this shit, but I'll do it. Obviously, the whole stickers thing's out there. I mean, do you have any thoughts about it? Doesn't really, I don't know, the whole sticker thing doesn't really faze me. I just think it's a good
nice
way
that people make money. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care about skins, but if I was like a super fan of some team, yeah, I guess it would be cool to have a sticker of that player's signature in that team to put on the guns. I can see the merit in it. I just don't think it's that big a deal, you know.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about this? They've stipulated now in the patch notes, you know, that 50% of the proceeds from sticker sales are going to the players. And obviously 50%, you know, 50% of the overall proceeds are going to the players and organizations. And then they're still allowing this kind of, what's the word? The kind of, you know, the organizations can choose the divide. And they've been using this as almost like leveraging tactics when it comes to negotiating contracts. That what they'll say is, oh, if you take a, you know, lower salary, we'll give you a bigger sticker cut. And, you know, I don't really like that. This isn't for the autograph ones. This is just for the team ones. Like, I do understand that, yes, it's the team intellectual property. You've got these logos and they belong to you. But ultimately, people are buying them because of the players you've got on the roster. You know, and that's just true of esports. You know, nobody really wakes up and says, no matter what dog shit players I have in the organization, I am this organization's fan for life. It's very, very rare. You know, you might get it with some organizations that have had like websites like Team Liquid. You might get that. You might get people who identify as Team Liquid and support them in every game, no matter what the roster is, what the team is, who the player is. That might be true. But for most teams, it's not true. So this debate is coming up again, this idea about, you know, sticker percentages and Valve not actually imposing an actual percentage for the team stickers. I think for the autograph stickers, I think how much a team can get back is limited, even though that's never been publicly stated. That's my understanding. But for the actual team stickers, nobody insists. Nobody makes an insistence. So I just wanted to know what you thought about that, because, you know, it's the players that sell the stickers ultimately.
Yeah, to a degree, I can see the point there, but I also do think that the reason why we spend all of our time focusing on player rights is because by default, players are the ones that get fucked the most, tend to be the least shrewd, and also as a result tend to have the least like contingency plans in place for when they get fucked. But at the end of the day, like, the teams have to make money as well and have to have their own strategy and have invested in these players. So I can see it from both ways. I don't only go on the player side of it, you know, like, I also think when you have these teams and you put together, like, I don't want to make it too stacked the other way to where a team can be like, oh, we got all the sticker money, and then tomorrow, since our contract ends after the major, if you don't give us 10 times more salary, we just leave you instantly and you are left with absolutely nothing, and you've invested all this money for the last 6 months that goes nowhere. So I can see it both ways. Like, I think there probably should be an option.
I can be pragmatic about it. So I'm not saying necessarily like, you know, all the money should go to the players. But, you know, I do hear situations, and this isn't uncommon, where it's like the org gets 80% and the players get 20%.
Sure.
I don't know. I feel like that percentage is a little bit fucking skewed. I feel like 50-50 would be fair.
Yeah, sounds all right.
Yeah, for the team stickers. But again, I don't know. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you think, you know, hey, they've got the autograph stickers now, which is why Valve brought them in.
So maybe teams should be taking the lion's share of the team stickers.
I think 50-50 sounds fair to me.
This was an interesting point. It was brought up on the subreddit. Someone had a thread where it was like, why haven't iBuyPower picked up another team? And how were they able to invest in the best team in NA? And they haven't picked anyone else up after the betting scandal. Well, what a lot of people don't know is that that team wasn't salaried, which again was a bit of nuance that was never fucking discussed within the context of the ban. Well, it was by me, it was by people like Bryce Blum, but it wasn't discussed en masse by the community. The iBuyPower had basically said you get 100% of the sticker money, and they weren't salaried. Which, you know, I kind of feel situations. I just don't feel like the sticker money should be this leveraging tool. I guess that's what I don't like about it. And that's why iBuyPower can't pick up a new team, because they haven't got the resources. Because now, in the current climate for Counterstrike, players want a fucking salary. And rightly so, because you expect fucking, you know, your players to put in 60 hours of practice a fucking week, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, so yeah, it does seem a little bit weird. Like, I don't like it. Again, you know me, I don't want Valve to be totally hands-on. I just want them to be a little bit more hands-on. You know, just looking at, you know, VAC bans and jiggery pokery and stuff like that, and just come out and clearly communicate with the community. Which brings me to the next point. Obviously, on the previous show, we talked about the FNX VAC ban, alleged VAC ban in the account. Well, Luminosity tweeted at you and said, oh, Valve have investigated this, and they said it wasn't his account, or he's in the clear. Now, does seem weird that that's the case, because that ESL profile page has been kind of removed and stuff, and there has been some covering up going on. But Valve did make a comment in a thread saying that when they hear about a VAC ban like this, they conduct their investigation and they look into it, and if they find anything untoward, they'll ban that player. So, again, the question is, why didn't Valve communicate that they've looked at FNX? They still haven't explicitly said that. We're still relying on Luminosity, you know, that's a biased source right there. You know, we're still relying on Luminosity's word. Yeah, Valve looked at it, and it's all good. It's all fine. You know, how do you explain that account? How do you explain that VAC ban? I want to know the facts in the case, because I want to ensure that we've got competitive integrity going on in our scene. But apparently he's got the all clear. So I wanted your thoughts about that.
I mean, by the way, for Luminosity, it means absolutely zero that you tell us in a tweet. By the way, notice, remember, this guy supposedly was cleared. Where was your public tweet about it? Yeah. Every Luminosity fan should be thanking me. I apparently got Luminosity and Valve to comment on this issue. They said nothing. They were ready for you to all think forever, oh, well, I guess I hope he's innocent, but there's nothing. And secondly, saying that in a tweet means fuck all, mate. Great. Oh, I'm the king of the moon. There we go, right? Send me my taxes for looking at the moon. Oh, do I have to prove it? Oh, it's weird. I didn't know I had to prove things nowadays. So there's no proof offered to anyone. And Valve come in, don't even address that actual topic, just address the concept of checking people's accounts, and that's it. Even Valve themselves in the thread didn't say, by the way, they're telling the truth. Yeah. FNX is so far we've moved nowhere. Now I don't care what why do people this is why, Richard, we need a proper judicial system where you can't just let people's opinions decide whether someone's guilty, because idiots literally always go to circumstantial reasoning and use that to like make a fact a case. Okay, so with Flusher they'll go, yeah, but think about it, if he was cheating, why would he cheat at the biggest tournaments where he could get caught? That's irrelevant, mate. The question is he cheating or not? Not is he nuts? Does he not care about the obvious risk? These are totally irrelevant side factors. So it's true. Yeah. I agree. Luminosity would be really, really stupid to tweet that he was innocent and he'd been cleared if he hadn't. You're right. But you know what? The fact that someone could be really stupid and do something doesn't mean they didn't do it. I once saw a video of a guy who over the course of a week chopped his own dick in half. Now, he did. That would be very, very stupid to do, but he did it. I saw the video. That doesn't suddenly make him go, oh, by the way, someone told me that'd be really stupid. And he goes, what? Now my dick's in one piece. Well, thanks, cheers, guy on the internet. Circumstantial evidence has changed reality.
We are
It was called Split Dick, Richard. It was called Split Dick. Look it up. It'll be somewhere on the internet.
So here's what I want to know, though, Duncan.
Yeah.
Right. How do you stumble on Split Dick? How do you do it? Do you type Split Dick into Google?
Nope.
Did you do that?
What happens is, in the early days of the internet, unlike Reddit, where you get content aggregated for you, we used to have forums. And the whole point of forums was you get to know the people in the forums, and you usually, nearly always, whatever the forum originally is for, let's say it's a comic book forum or a CS forum or a comedian's website, it'll always start off as that topic to discuss that, but inevitably it just becomes a community, and in a community you just start talking about everything you're interested in. So what happens is, and nearly always on like edgy forums, people are just trying to post the most fucked up shit. By the way, this is the sort of thing where I usually don't see this sort of stuff, because I don't usually follow that stuff. But I remember someone posting that and just being like, this can't be real. Now, the sort of person who likes this shit, I'm just going to reveal it right now, is if you want to know who to go to for that sort of shit, go to your boy Anders Bloom. This guy knows all that deviant shit. This guy's an animal. He knows all the most fucked up shit on the internet. And that's how he has such a little jolly smile on his face. Because behind his eyes is a sickening sort of darkness that you will only find in the sort of heart of a dictator or some kind of like Patrick Bateman-esque motherfucker trying to run the world.
Like Anders Split Dick Bloom. We finally got his nickname. We finally got his nickname. No, but here's the thing. Is that the Berlin Pain Olympics thing? Germans, of course. Germans, of course. I think I saw that video as well way back in the day. But I was foisted upon me. I definitely wasn't looking for it. Right? If there's some balls coming out at the end as well, it's definitely the same video. If it's just a dick in half, we'll have to compare notes on that shit. Maybe the guy just misheard GB James and made a play that made his dick split. It wasn't.
Yeah, he said, "Do a split A on your dick." You say, "Okay, boss, whatever you say."
Whatever you say. Look, I forgot a point when we were talking about the stickers, actually. We brought it up before. So I did want to ask you about this, because I know you love your Skrilla. I know you love your money. That's the only reason you wake up of a morning, is to go out and make bank and hoard it. And then one day, you're going to live the dream of just taking that screenshot of your bank balance, showing it to all the plebs on the internet that say you've never made any money out of esports, and then just piecing the fuck out, right? I totally get the fantasy. So I want to ask you, you're the leading CSGO analyst, right? Yep. Shouldn't you have some sort of stickers? Shouldn't you be making money?
You'd think so. I mean, in Dota, they have a thing where they can sign like items or something. Admittedly, I've heard you don't make very much unless you're literally like the equivalent of their Anders. You just make a little bit of money. I think it would be nice. Like, I think it would be a nice gesture at least. Like, for example, let me think. How many majors have I done? I think this will be my 4th major. Let me think. Yeah, because I did all the DreamHack Winters. I think this will be my 4th major I've done. I've obviously done like, I've easily done 10,000 hours work of watching games, working in their game. Be a nice way to give something back, bearing in mind, remember, Valve have never given me 1 cent out of their pocket for 15 years of working on their games, helping make them popular. I mean, obviously, like not literally make them popular, but like contributing to the scene around them. And they've essentially never paid me even 1 cent, because it's the organizers who pay me the money, and Valve, as far as I know, don't pay the talent budget. So I think it'd just be a nice gesture. Like, I can't see what you'd lose out from by having that sort of an item in the game. It's obviously also, let's face it, like, it's not like I need the money. So it's not like it's, for someone like me, it's probably not such a big deal. For some of the newer people, it'd probably be very nice for them as well if they could make, this could help supplement their income, and they could make a proper living off, etc. So I think it would be cool, but I guess it's not the end of the world if it doesn't happen.
Do you think it ever will? Do you think they'll ever go back on that? Because, think about it from a Dota 2 perspective. The talent have in-game items that they can make money from over there. So why don't we have it, over here?
I do think, just from the point of view of making money, it doesn't make sense. Because remember that breakdown you were talking about with like Valve and their teams? Well, there would be a breakdown on these stickers. So if any of these stickers are popular, Valve makes more money. So I can't even conceive of how they don't want an Anders Bloom, "Are you kidding me?" sticker that they make 50% off of. Why they don't want a similar like, "Happy, what do you do?" Like some Freiburg or something. Like all the great quotes you could have, and all the funny, like Black DDK. Mate, they might not make that one, admittedly. They might consider that politically insensitive. But I tell you what, I'll tell you right now, Richard, and you'll agree with me. Bardolph himself would be on board with that one. If you told him the Skrilla he was going to make, he'd be like, "Listen, dress me up like Shaka Zulu, do what you're going to do, brother, and send me that 6 Skrilla."
Oh, James, he'll appreciate that as well. So anyway, like I don't know, it's just a thought, one last bit of news, and then I'm going to segue into something, and then we can get the fuck out of here. A lot of people have been talking about Pronax's team. They did qualify currently under the name Ancient. I just wanted to get your thoughts about, whether or not this Swedish lineup is actually going to do anything, whether or not we're going to see Pronax and his crew actually kind of, make a contribution to the international scene.
I mean, probably not, because they're a decent lineup. Like, they're not bad. They have some good players in there, obviously, but there is the whole issue of there's a reason why some of these players didn't go to other teams. Like, it's been speculated, maybe some of them don't like to travel, or some of them can't travel, or, these sorts of things that circumstantially might hold them back from being on the big events. Also, it feels to me like here's the thing, because this isn't a big org, like, they don't have a huge amount of backing. If what had happened is the story had been Pronax wanted to do an Astralis, and he didn't want to join another org because he thought, you know what, I'll make my own venture. And these are my last few years in the game. I'll make my own Pronax team, and I'll be a co-founder, and I'll make all this money. I would understand that. But instead, it feels like Pronax turned down all these much better offers or decent offers to just make a team with people who are friends of his that he wants to play with. And if they can be competitive, cool. If not the end of the world. So as a result, I don't even think the drive is there within this team to be an elite level team. So unless something changes and they get some better players, or something switches about they want to go super ham, I doubt much is going to happen. So I think they're just like a novelty gimmick story at the moment,
Yeah. And where do you rate Pronax just in terms of in-game leadership? Because I kind of feel like his era, his ability, it's almost been colored a little bit by the continued success of Fnatic in his absence.
Well, I mean, in that sense, I'm glad that happened, because it used to tilt the tits off me where, because Fnatic was winning everything with him in the team, everyone was like, oh, he must be the best in-game leader. It's like, shut the fuck up. They've got Olaf Meister, they've got Krims, they've got JBL. They have all these fantastic players. And they had, at the time, like, the best player in the world for like 8 months or something. So I think people overrated his level when he was in Fnatic. But even if this team turns out to be shit and never does anything, don't ignore the fact he is a good player. The thing with him is he's like the sort of in-game leader where he doesn't have fantastic actual tactics, but his like decision-making in the game, like in the middle of a round, after a round, is very good. That's one area I think he has a real strength in. So if you put the right pieces around him, I certainly think he can be successful. Like people like him and God B, there's a reason why everywhere they go, they have some sort of an impact on those players. And you always find yourself going, oh, those players are better than individually I saw them be beforehand. So he's certainly one of the all-time greats. I just don't think he's the greatest. And I don't think winning everything makes you automatically the greatest at your role.
Okay, so this is the segue part. So ESPN, our friends, ESPN, they did a global power ranking, which was put together by your friend and X 1.6 in-game leader, Lurpis, and it caused a bit of a stir, as rankings always tend to do. In fact, one of the main reasons why you do rankings is because of all the little plebs that crawl out of the woodwork and go, I have looked at this ranking and it does not align with my own thoughts. Well,
by the
achieve something and you'll get paid to put your thoughts on a fucking website, mate. But anyway.
What's great, by the way, is I'm going there right now, Richard. So I go to ESPN, eSports, still no subsection for Counterstrike, of course. So I have to actually literally Control F on their page to find this ranking. I've only worked in esports for 15 years, mate. But if I can't find it, I'm sure probably everyone else is finding it. Don't worry about it.
So don't worry, we got material coming.
Okay.
So basically, I didn't want to tell you before the show. So anyway, the ranking caused some consternation. Predominantly because I think, first of all, people don't understand what a power ranking is. It's not that they're a very American thing. They're not European, and we don't really use them a lot. But a power ranking is typically over a short space of time, usually about a week, and it's just what's happened in that week in that league. And that's what a power ranking is. So you can have somebody who like wins all their games that week, be the top of a power ranking, even though they're not top in the league itself. They just had a really good week. That's the concept of a power ranking. However, I did want to ask, and I know you're not shy about clashing with Lurpis. You won't just back him because he's your boy. there were a couple of picks that really made people, kind of question the validity of this ranking. And, it starts out good. Fnatic 1, Luminosity 2, Na'Vi 3, Astralis 4. Yeah, all right. And then it's like, oh my, me, Mouse Sports at 5 and Tempo Storm at 6.
Yeah. The only thing is,
overrated to put in a bit there, mate.
I mean, I'm not really sure. I still don't understand. I haven't asked him about this, actually. I'm still not sure, despite all the opening section where he tries to explain what the point of the power ranking is. I'm still actually not sure myself if he understood what a power ranking is. Because here's the key thing to understand. Because I remember they used to do this in StarCraft for power rankings. And so because I'm not brain dead like the majority of fans, I don't just ignore all the paragraphs explaining it every week and then keep thinking, but you have said he is the 7th best in the world. No, that's not what I'm saying. The 7th in the world. I don't just do that every month of my life because I actually try to learn, unlike the fucking rats in a maze getting electrocuted to death like that CSGO fans are. So one of the key things as far as I know about a power ranking is what you just said. It's based purely off one set period of time. So if it's a week, then it can go like this, okay? Let's say over a week in online play, all that happened was Na'Vi played, I'll say, G2 and Dignitas, okay? And Na'Vi won both games. Meanwhile, Fnatic played, I mean, obviously they can't play it in an online league, but let's imagine Fnatic played Luminosity and Astralis, and Fnatic lost to Astralis and beat Luminosity. If that happened, even though we all think Fnatic is better than Na'Vi, Na'Vi would be ranked higher because overall they had more wins and overall against good teams. And so there would be some context to it. Like you could ask yourself, but was Na'Vi's teams worse enough that they shouldn't get boosted above? So you could do that. Okay, that's what you do there. But essentially all power ranking is supposed to do is tell you about current form. Like this is the person's current form. Has it gone up? Has it gone down relative to who they played? So Lopez did try to do that. The only part I don't understand is it feels to me like he also tried to mix in the concept of ranking in general. And so ranking in as much as who he actually thinks is the best now. So I feel like, for example, for Mouse Sports, he did do that. Like he put Mouse Sports 5th because he thinks Nico's sick and he thinks they're on the cusp of doing something. But what I don't understand about Mouse Sports being 5th is, okay, he is using some online games as well, I notice in this. But in offline play, I've said this about Mouse Sports on past shows, they're actually most famous for doing really well in games they lose. Now, for me, when you lose a game, you gain nothing. You don't gain points. There's no moral victories here. You don't gain points for losing a lot of games really closely. You only gain points for winning. Now, you notice in my ranking has nothing to do with how good I think the team is and how good I think their form is. It's purely what results have they had and how do I weigh those results up. So I think the problem for Lopez here is that the concept is okay. I think he muddied 2 or 3 concepts together into one. And so as a result, I don't think he pleased anyone in that respect, So as a result, he's ended up with scenarios where he's got NIP, for example, who haven't had any LAN placings. They won one big map over teams EnVyUs, obviously, but then he's doing it over a week. So I think his problem there was he maybe himself didn't define the terms enough. I personally, by the way, as a general thing, don't think power rankings, as they're done in America, have any value whatsoever. I think they're kind of pointless. I also think this is an area in esports where they're very good esports content in as much as they will always generate massive amounts of discussion because all that will happen is everyone will say all your points are wrong. So they're great if you want hits. Exactly. The problem is, in League of Legends, they do this every single month, right? They do power rankings there. And to this day, Richard, in League of Legends, even casters don't know that power rankings aren't saying who the best is. So if you power rank someone 3rd, they will go, wow, you think he is the 3rd best. Casters I'm talking about. People who work in the industry still don't know what a power ranking is. Because 99% of people in esports have never watched a sport because they were too busy crawling out of their fucking locker while that guy who shoved him in there went and got the only piece of pussy in the school.
Yeah.
Dead now. Denny's waitress dead now.
But yeah, it is fucking retarded that people don't understand it. But I will say that ones on the LOL esports fucking site are a lot of the time just absolute pure cancer.
Sure. Yeah. They're not good, but at least the concept, I understand it,
Yeah. I get that. So look, here's the thing. I'm going to come out and I'm going to say that obviously I've got my spy network all around the world, dealing with that insider info. It's why I get to break so many stories. It's why, if I do say so myself, I've been the leading esports journalist in terms of breaking news and investigative journalism for a long, long time. So ESPN, they've made some changes, Duncan.
Yeah.
They made some changes. Well, I'm hearing about some exciting hires that I think are going to help really
Any
put
exciting
them.
Fires? Any exciting fires?
Well, here's the exciting
Give me what I need to hear, Richard. Come on.
Yeah, I right. So the slasher era might have already come to an abrupt end, mate.
Wow, the slasher era lasted less time than the EnVyUs era.
Yeah, I know, right? Apparently,
would it be less sad to see it go?
Yeah, apparently he's going to be handling booking interviews from now on. So, which it's kind of all he was doing anyway.
To be fair, Richard, to book things means you have to be really on top of like your schedule. You have to be able to turn up on time. You have to be able to manage it. I'm not sure he's qualified for that, mate. I'll be honest with you. I don't think he's qualified for that.
We'll see. But look, so obviously, I think ESPN, they took a little bit.
Again, though, to be fair, I mean, they have to give him some job. I mean, it's not like they have. I mean, they don't have a job there as like a test case for whether bullets work properly when they like explode inside a human body. So they can't just give him a job he's suited for. So they have to give him some sort of a job.
And like, yeah, probably. But like I think ESPN took some umbrage with some of the things that I've been saying about it. But like, I'll be honest, this is actually this is a step in the right direction. It shows they are taking things seriously, and they do take this journalistic responsibility they're going to have in the esports space because it's ESPN. They're taking it seriously. They want to get good journalists in there. They want to do good work. And, fuck it. Like, the last thing I would ever do is fucking gloat about someone getting fired or fucking demoted because I think it's fucking pathetic. But this guy, unethical shit, man, going on. And it's just, I take the whole journalism and journalistic ethics thing super fucking seriously. That's pretty much how I've defined myself as a person for God knows how fucking long. So I'm kind of, I'm going to come out and I thought I'd give you a little bit of news that, it's going to excite and titillate you on air. I knew you'd approve of it. Of course, I'm sure there'll be, some tweet stories about my demise have been fucking, greatly exaggerated. Whenever he wakes up, of course, but it is daylight outside still.
I mean, here's the thing you have to realize is like the whole point is it's fine to laugh about that, Richard, because it's someone who's done some fucked up shit who's getting his comeuppance. Notice Richard isn't involved in him getting fired. It just happened irrespective of anything Richard wanted or did. We could have had his salary doubled. It has no effect on us. The point is, it's just funny when someone who's fucked over other people gets fucked over himself. But again, key point, we didn't play a part in that. He has played a part in fucking over other people. Now, as Richard says, he won't even hear about this for 3 days because his life is like that fucking movie. What was it called? Well, I'll have to look it up now, Richard, to forget the reference.
Which one?
Oh,
you've got to look up.
Every day of his life. Every day of his life is like that movie, Enter the Void.
Yes.
There we go. Reference game is on point.
That is a very good movie as well, actually.
Except that in his version, when it essentially every day is like he'd be on like IRC. I mean, they don't have IRC, but the equivalent of that, on Skype, typing away. Then it'd just say on the screen like, "Oh, talk to you in half an hour." Then he'd take the DMT and go off and like die and go into the fucking spirit world or whatever. That's how every day goes for him.
Well, actually, no. What he's doing out there in the spirit world is somehow he's become one with Skype, and he's messaging everyone that I've ever talked to, telling them, Richard Lewis is an asshole. Don't talk to him ever again. By the way, have I mentioned I work for ESPN? Give me a story, and don't give him a story.
Even if he actually did go into sort of the realm of consciousness where he could interact with like electrical goods and like be part of the internet, he'd still be getting pipped on stories because he'd be like off in some quadrant of the internet getting high on fucking like electromagnetic resonance or something. He'd be like, shit, man, I promised I was going to get that story to him on his desk. Shit. Sending like carbon copies of like the wrong email to people. He'd still fuck up even if he was Tron, mate. Even if he was in the movie Tron, he wouldn't stop that computer. He'd just fucking roll it. In fact, first thing he'd do is, in Tron, where he actually like to escape, he has to like take on the color, that red color of one of the like guards or something. He'd do that, but then he'd just start working his way up through the ranks. In fact, if anything, in the movie Tron, Slasher is that guy who was like the head, one of those pleb robot guys trying to stop Tron. Reference game incredibly on point. 80s movie.
Excellent. Do love a bit of Tron. So final thing before we piece the fuck out, because I did forget about it and it's worth talking about. You love the American scene, right? I think that's fair to say. You love it.
It's all right.
You love it, mate. No, you fucking love it. You love it and you love talking about it. Yeah, it's definitely one of your great joys in life. So it must
have blown your mind to see what was going on with Complexity. So just again, a little bit of context. Obviously, they haven't had a good time of it lately. They're like 2 for 10 or something in the ESEA Pro League. And they had a little bit of drama where after some particularly bad performances from fRod, Shinobi got caught on stream saying something on Steam chat where he was like saying, we're playing 4v5. What the fuck am I supposed to do with this? Again, referring to fRod, who was brought out of retirement, kind of by Jason Lake, underperforming. So now fRod has been moved to backup. They're trying out Witmer, but I think as well, Complexity are looking at shaking up this roster. So and you can see straight away they're looking for options to fill fRod's shoes. So what do you think about this change? What do you think about the overall potential of Complexity? Because let's not forget, right? They got Roka. And again, if aliens would have come down from fucking wherever the fuck they're at and arrived today, and they were to go on Reddit, they think the 2 best players in the world were Shroud and Roka. That's all any fucker ever. Yeah, exactly. If you went on Reddit, not if they were like higher beings who could use critical thinking, but just if they were basically like some souped up retards from outer space that came down and were like, first thing we're going to do is learn about Counterstrike for some reason.
Well, Richard, you've missed the trick here. Essentially, if the slasher of an alien race just went onto our internet and did a bit of Googling in the 5 minutes it takes him to roll a doobie, obviously he'd come away and go, yeah, man, it's like, I think like Shroud and Roka, like the best players, man.
Can I get an interview with you? And don't give it to Richard Lewis, please. There you go. Aliens, of course. So what do you think of Complexity, and what do you think they need? And do you think fRod had to go?
Based on what I saw, yeah, fRod had to go. It wasn't good enough, especially because he's a primary AWPer. He's going to have that weapon all the time. That's the most expensive role to play in the game. If you aren't good enough, you have to get the fuck out the server. I'm sorry, you can't be allowed to play that role unless you're really, really good at it. So right now, even for Complexity, he's not good enough. That's just a fact. Like, he has to either up his level or go play somewhere else and work his way up, which is what he should have done anyway, by the way. He shouldn't have had nepotism, get him onto a team that was good, lock him into a roster, and then fuck the squad over where they couldn't get better players because everyone was like, oh, wait a minute, you got fRod signed up? Yeah, I'm not joining, mate. I'm going to play in some other team, which is one of the things that did happen. Secondly, there's the fact that, let me think. What was the other part? What was the other part of the question?
Well, just their overall potential. Like, what do you think they're going to do? They have got Roku's built as a star player. Yeah.
Nah, I don't think
can they get better if they literally? So no matter who they put into that lineup, they're trying out this Witmer guy.
Oh, the Witmer one. That's right. I forgot. That's what you're talking about. The Witmer pickup. Right, the Witmer pickup is utterly idiotic, and it just shows what ridiculous plebs are at all levels of the NA scene: owners, other teammates, fans, just beyond plebs, Richard. Because you have to understand, Witmer has done nothing in his career. He has shown no potential. He has shown no reason why you would say he was a skilled player inside the electronic virtual Counterstrike video game that the whole scene is meant to be based on. What he has done is do some streams where he outlined some of the very tragic and horrible parts of his life that mean that people feel really sorry for him. And so they have activated the irrational, emotional component of their brain, which you often see exhibited on shows like X Factor, American Idol, when someone who can't sing is told, you are not good enough at singing to be a professional singer. And the crowd go, boo, boo, he has cancer, boo, even though they would never buy that guy's albums. That's what you're seeing with this Witmer scenario.
Yeah, so, absolutely. You literally took the words out of my fucking mouth. Like,
unless Jason
my whole material ruined.
Such a cynical genius that he thought, right, my team's not doing anything right now. Let's just get some more fans by doing what fans want. Unless he actually did that, if he actually thought, no, this guy's dedicated and he's really going to make it and he's really going to be a top player, I think he was either delusional or he had no options left. Like, I can't buy that was like a legit pickup, because to me, there's no reason to make the pickup right now. I mean, if we're going to make it a contest as to whose life has sucked the most, then we're going to get an even worse NA scene. Not least because, guess what? I'll put it this way. There's a lot of really sick CSGO players who've had wonderful lives, who haven't had any problems. And guess what? The computer doesn't go, excuse me, ever sucked dick for weed? Then I'm sorry, you don't get a 4K. Instead, what the computer does the computer goes, Olafmeister, you ever kicked a puppy to death, mate? And then he goes, and then they go, don't answer that. Doesn't matter, mate. You got 2 headshots. Well done. Don't. Well, I didn't answer if I ever kicked the puppy or not. Doesn't actually matter, mate. You could be ready for the puppy right now. Sick headshot though, mate. No scope. Well done.
The thing is, as well, though, it's like, well, what if you like sucking dick and weed? Huh?
Then let's combine your 2 favorite pastimes. Get you some weed and cum.
Jesus Christ. You're a fucking shambles. Right, well, I think that's a good way to end the show. Moving swiftly on, wiping our mouths. What content have you got coming? Because obviously I think we're going to do another show on Wednesday.
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing coming?
My first day after, I've got home after an event. All I do for the first day is think about ways I can quit ever going to events again and how I need to reform my whole life, because this is an unacceptable way to live your life, or 4 hours sleep with a bunch of shit cunts in your ear all the time breaking the sound. So right now, Richard, me living to Tuesday is my content. Me still being alive, making tweets is my content. If I get to Tuesday, you might see some stuff that's about CS and League of Legends and all that.
Yeah, that is what's going to happen though. I'm gonna predict something, because I think there's speculation about Urakanji is going to come in and coach Cloud9.
Yeah.
So obviously, there's your next Who Is video. That's happening.
Could be a video,
right?
yeah. It could be a video.
Yeah, there you go. So there you go. You can thank me later, all right? Because obviously I know well, people don't realize this, People think Thorin pulls my strings. Like, it's the other way around. Thorin's an invention. He's like, nobody could be Thorin by himself. There's a team of people working around the clock to feed him all this shit. He's got an in-ear piece right now with all his statistics. And like, he's got a team of joke writers. Let's say Olafmeister's raping a dog. Like, edgy joke writers around the clock. Like, Thorin is multiple people. He's a concept. He's not a real person.
Also,
played by an actor.
Just think about the plotting of my career, Richard. Like, I was just an okay level fame journalist until I made these comments about a country that is the world championship for the game I'm working in, for one of the biggest companies. So I set up this whole storyline where people are like, oh, should he join ESL? Should ESL let him go? Oh, he can't go to this tournament. Every time, think about the logic of this, Richard. Every time an event happens that I don't go to and have no intention to attend because of something 2 years ago, people still have to mention my name. The marketing is genius on this creation. Then you get this period where there's this beef with the #1 owner of a North American League of Legends team. So now every League of Legends fan knows who I am. The actual creation of this character is very much like when you make a political candidate, you're going to have the spin doctors and the guy feeding in the philosophy and the speeches. So I think we've done a pretty good job so far.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes, where the culmination is, because obviously there will come that point where we jump the shark. We reach peak absurdity, and the Thorin show has to be cancelled.
Richard, who was that famous politician in America who called the press conference and blew his own head off with the pistol?
Oh, Bud. Filter wrote the song about him. Hey man, nice shot, Bud Dwyer or something.
Yeah, that might be Bud Dwyer. That sounds about right.
Bud Dwyer, is that right? Reference game, incredibly on point. If I pulled that out of my brain. So yeah, do continue.
Yeah, Bud Dwyer. I think that's who it is. Let's see if he can.
What a fuck! I'm a fucking beast. Pub quizzes, yeah, booyah. Anyway, so is that what you're gonna do? Is that how the show ends?
I can't see if it actually says that how he killed himself. Anyway, yeah, I think he did kill himself for that. But here, the point is, since we've been in the public eye so much now, Richard, and we've gotten to the point where, like I'm describing, our reputation even precedes us and has become part of the law of esports. We have to make an agreement, a pact right now. If we ever do kill ourselves, we can't be selfish and do it in the privacy of our own home for reasons that are unknown. We have to do it in some kind of an online show or with a video camera. We owe that at least to our legacies.
I agree. The only thing that makes me a bit worried is this whole pack. I'm not ready to check out yet. Like I got some.
No, it's not a pact. It's just if you decide on your own to kill yourself. Because by the way, Richard, I didn't say that we do it in an altruistic way. Like if I kill myself, I'm going to use what I've learned about Counterstrike and set up a collateral shot where it goes through my head at an event, through fucking like Makalele's head, through Slasher's head, and into the balls of like fucking. Let me think. Who's ball? Just Fox. Just stop him having kids. I don't know. I don't care. There we go. I guess that is altruistic at the end. In the end, I was altruistic, wasn't I?
That's how, I guess that's how you'll be remembered. So yeah, but yeah, don't do it just yet, Duncan. We've got work to do. 2016. Let's make Counterstrike great again, and let's revisit in 2017. All right, let's do that. So anyway, and as someone's just tweeted at me, if you do want to off yourself, Dunk, just go to Brazil or Poland. Someone will do it for you.
I have had a lot of offers, so
yeah, exactly. So anyway, just some updates. We're going to have 2 more shows, I think it is, before the end of the month. I think one's going to be coming Wednesday, and then we're going to do one on the last day of the month. So that's good. That'll be me checking out. That'll be my last show at that point. What else is going on that I have to tell people? Yeah, GB James has agreed to be on the last show. It's done. It's a done deal. And then we get a piece of work out. So obviously, fucking looking forward to that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. Oh, I've got some content coming. I spent last night, I wrote 5,000 words in a single sitting. Haven't done that for fucking ages. I know you do it all the time. But I was super proud of myself. My attention span's fucked for some reason. And I did an interview at the end of the year, the end of last year, with the guy who ran Gaming Paradise. And it's mind-blowing, dude. This guy is like a fucking cretin. So I'm putting that out there because I just don't want him, to ever be involved in running another event again. So keep an eye out for that. And just a shout out as well, because I said I was going to do this. We've got a fan, an actual good fan, like not a fan that does weird shit, like sends you turds in shoe boxes through the post. An actual real fan, cat named Mittens. Just wanted to put your name in a video. Always there, always the first in the YouTube channels, always the first in Reddit, always bigging up what we do. It's not creepy or weird, just nice. So there you go, shout out. Anyway, with that said, we're going to go. We'll be back on Wednesday. But until then, may all your drafts be alpha. Peace out.